Yo, good morning, good evening. So I'm back after a little bit of a summer break. So the plan today is to just get into it again. I think it's been like a month since I last opened the project, and I want to start ramping up for the fall. So, during the last sessions, we completed this sort of a physics-based UI component, and which we can see here. So not only is it physics-based, these bubbles pushing each other and making space for new bubbles and so on, but it's also placed in world space. So the bubbles appear at a world position and they stay there unless pushed by other UI elements. And I mean, it works pretty good under a lot of when a lot is happening. You might see some of the physics becoming questionable, but it's good enough for now. The idea is not to use this too excessively in game, but more in very certain places, if that makes sense. Yo, what's up, Antonino? Hope you have had a wonderful summer, man. So this is good enough for now. We can polish the last bits later when we have like the actual use case set in stone, so to speak. So what we're gonna jump onto now, or what we're gonna start this fall autumn season with, is something we started this summer but diverged a bit from, and that is monster logic. I want to get something good in place, and I've spoken a lot that like how the creatures act and what they do, they will be it will very closely resemble like a, I guess you could say, animal simulation. So just to summarize it for new viewers and me, I need to get back into it. So we're gonna have creatures that jump around in this landscape. We can terraform the landscape, make it habitable for the creatures, which will mean that more creatures will come and want to live here, and so on and so on. The creatures will have attributes. These attributes will create needs, basically. So we will have attributes like strength, maybe, but we will also have attributes like saturation and hydration. Moving around and stuff like that drains hydration, and when hydration gets low enough, that will prompt a need. So then the attribute handler that keeps track of it will send a message to the agent instance notifying it that like this agent needs water, and this need will prompt the agent to start a process where it will try and find something that will hydrate it, most likely water, but it's going to search far and wide. So first we're gonna start a search action for the agent, which we don't currently have, I don't think. No. So that's what we're gonna start with today. When this search has found something, it's gonna prompt maybe action inspect. If the inspect yields that this is what we're looking for, then it's gonna prompt action consume or action drink, maybe. We'll see how specific we'll be. So it's like a gonna be like a goal-oriented state machine, right? Antonino, I only took a week off. The company was closed. I'm saving up my vacation days as much as possible, waiting to plan a trip with my friends. And in parentheses, I know we will never do something. That's how it is sometimes. But like, if you really, really want to do it, push for it as well. Because it really sounds nice. So we have our little creature here, and currently yo, what's up, real alien? Oh yeah, we're gonna remove that later on. That's okay. Makes me wonder though. I might want to look at this now, actually. Anthony, where I've been, I had some vacation, but I did some other work during summer as well. But it was nice. It was nice. Just traveled a lot in Sweden to family and friends. A couple of weddings. Stuff like that. I can't really say that I feel it wasn't that relaxing, so I don't feel that energized, but hopefully like I will get energized from this work, finally being back at it, you know. Okay, let's start with this then. Fields with serialized reference cannot serialize objects that are derived from Unity object. Did I screw something up before we left? So we have it in attribute handler. Let's take a look at that one first. Attribute handler and mono behavior. This one doesn't have any serialize reference, does it? Unless this should be okay. Okay, we're trying to serialize attribute handler. I wonder where though. Can we get a better pinpoint on this? Oops, sorry. Let's see. I'm pretty sure we don't. That would be weird. The question is if something went wrong during compilation. Action handler should not be... No, action handler is not Unity object derived. Nor is interactable. No. Okay. This is frustrating. Could also be, we're gonna see here. Do not reload domain or scene. Let's reload domain and scene and see if it was an error during. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. So let's just do a fresh reload and see if the issue persists. The issue we have is when we select blob, for instance. Yeah, then we get it. Could be agent instance, actually. Maybe. Yo, what's up, Derek? Hope you had a wonderful summer. I'm a little bit annoyed by this one, but this feels like a problem that is typical for when you get back into a project after a while. Let's see. Okay, so for blob, we have attribute handler and animate entity. Those are two problems, but for... And it's only when we select it, is it? Yes. This honestly feels like a Unity editor problem. But my question then is why... So the editor is trying to serialize these two for some reason. When we jump to character, or when we select a character which has quite a lot more components, we're going to see the same error message, but for a few more. So apart from... Okay, instead of animate entity, we have... dynamic entity, apparel handler, inventory, and playable entity, and attribute handler. Okay, so instead of animate entity, we have playable entity, and then we have attribute handler. Can I see a pattern between these? We don't have it for body definition, nor tool handler, nor player movement. Hmm. Yo, I was just about to say, I have no idea why YouTube doesn't show the, like, usernames, but what's up, Kevin? Hope you had a wonderful summer. Okay, let's see. The real offender is this property. Okay, I know what this is. I know what it is. Fucking hell. Or I thought... Yo, what's up, Skafer? No. Just had to take a summer break. Busy. I post stuff on my Discord if you ever feel like it, looking there, you know. But hope you had a wonderful summer, Skafer. And we're back now. The real offender is this property in animate entity. Game action, action handler, action handler. Action handler, I agent system. Action handler itself is not mono behavior. Nor is animate action handler. This is something I started to look into before I went on summer break, but we didn't get to the bottom of it. What's wonderful about 40 degrees Celsius? Yeah, that doesn't sound wonderful at all, actually. I think the highest temperature we had here where I live in Sweden this summer was 35 degrees Celsius. And that was also the day we went to a wedding. You actually got used to having a suit in 35 degrees. But it wasn't pleasant, you know. Okay, let's jump to animate entity. Action handler, serialized reference abstract selectable. Yeah, that's true. We have it here. God damn, Kevin, 41 degrees. It's insane. If you get a nice sweat coat inside the suit. Yes, I had a three-piece as well. Let's just say it went directly to the dry cleaner after that. So yes, we do have serialized reference and abstract selectable on Action Handler, but Action Handler itself is not monobehavior derived, unless I'm missing something. Oh, yeah. I wonder why it is. So even though Action Handler itself is not Unity Engine object, the fact that it's being serialized instead of monobehavior triggers the error. Honestly, this doesn't... Schaefer, no, it wasn't my wedding. This doesn't make much sense to me. Because this is my usual work. Why shouldn't I be able to use serialized reference on Action Handler here? What? Although it also looks like the serialization is done correctly. Playable actions. Oh, actually, we can take blob. Animate entity. Animate action. We do have focus here. Inspect action. Everything is being serialized the correct way. And if we take a look at character again and we check, so which ones did we have that were not? Agent instance and player movement, attribute functions. So here's the weird part. Player movement. Here we have okay, we have it like this. When is my wedding? Nothing planned in the pipeline. If maybe you should take your Twitch and YouTube chat as guests, yeah, and live stream the whole thing. I don't know. It's an idea. It's an idea. Okay, look at this. So here we have serialized reference abstract selectable on actions, and that works. We don't get any errors there. So this workflow works. But why would we get it for... What I worry is that this is an issue tied to the custom serializable. So abstract selectable. So this is a custom Unity editor script to be able to render virtual classes, basically. I'm a little bit afraid that that script might be causing the issue. Everything seems to be working normally, except for this error being thrown then. I don't see it. When the serialized object graph contains any Unity Engine object derived instance. Skiffer, at the beginning of August I said I'm gonna post more screenshots and videos of my game. It's 17th of August and last and only post was 2 weeks ago. I don't understand how people do it either. Just switch out August to September and do it for real. I wonder if my plan is to start posting again in September, and I think what's gonna help me is building up like a backlog of things to post, you know? Consistency is king, and a backlog helps with that. So if you start posting images, make sure that you have like 5 or 6 when you start at least. And then you say, let's post 1 or 2 a week. And then you work on that backlog all the time, so it doesn't go down to 0, you know? That's one of the tricks you can do. Yeah, I'm sorry about the bad health news. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. And that's also like something you need to take into account. Life changes. You can't plan for everything. And sometimes it's okay to slack. Animate entity action handler. But it's being attached to a component object. Animate entity, which is not allowed with serialized reference. Okay. That's what I'm doing. But ultimately lives under it. That feels... Hmm. Schedule since September if it's very bad or not too bad. I'm keeping my hopes up, man. Yeah, that sucks. Okay, so how do I want to attack this? I have been wondering if I want to go back to making action handler mono behavior, right? And that would solve... That would solve... That would solve this one, I guess. Then we have attribute handler as well. What would be the causing attribute handler? Animate dynamic entity. Okay, so we're getting this error for attribute handler as well. One sec. But this one we're not using with serialized reference, are we? Oh, okay, it might start getting back to me now. Still wondering about the playable. Okay, let's see. So at the end of the summer streams, we also added this to our graphs. So not only do we generate the visuals of the creatures on the go, so these are the nodes for the visuals. We also generate stuff like this, attributes, um, attribute generator. This could possibly be one cause of it. But I'm not too sure. So we generate the visuals of it, and then we convert game object to animate entity editor node. So then we have an animate entity. Could it be? And we add an attribute handler with a couple of attributes. And we add action focus, inspect, and move rigid body. All of these components get added the correct way with attributes as well. And then we add interactions, which also gets added the correct way. Add interaction focus, add interaction inspect, and then finally convert it to creature. Is it the serialization here that screws it up? What if we just try and do creature spawner 0. Let's skip spawning a creature. Okay, and then if we select our character, we still get the same. Error. Not serialize objects that derive from Unity dot object, in this case game inventory. Where are we trying to serialize it except for here, basically? We don't have any references to it. None whatsoever. Game is paused. We have this one selected. This is 100% editor generated errors. But what have we done that prompts it to serialize it like this and fail at it? Because my Godot plugin is in... what is this plugin? What's up, Harukanan? Hope you had a wonderful summer. Yes, Skåne indeed. Let me just check here. I'm trying to remember what change we did that could cause this. No, I don't remember you showing me this. Let me copy that link and check it out after. Harukanan, I'm sorry to hear. Yeah, it's tough out there. All the time, but no finances. Yeah, hopefully you had some good times anyway. When are we trying to serialize inventory? We don't do it anywhere in the code. That's what bothers me. Yeah, they are editor prompted as well. That's what sucks. We don't have any references in the code to inventory. None. We only have it as a mono behavior. It's like we're trying to serialize this object somewhere where we shouldn't. I've got a third-party inspector script for one thing and one thing only. And that might very well be the root cause of this, but I don't understand why, after all this time, with no updates to Unity, it would start acting up. It feels like I've done something somewhere. And if it were only... So we have one editor script that makes it possible to assign virtual objects or interface derived, or classes that implements interfaces in the editor, because I love polymorphism. So for instance, let's do this. We don't have it during non-runtime as well. So for instance, if we take a look at playable entity and playable action handler and playable actions. So here we're able to assign like actions that all derive from action. Polymorphism is dangerous, can go wrong so fast. True, but I have no idea how I would go about implementing this without polymorphism, without making it like insanely bloated. And I mean, yeah, it makes sense. So for instance, if playable entity would be causing this serialized issue, we could probably make it down to, or blame this playable action array here of classes. But what makes this weird to me is that inventory. I'm gonna try one thing here that is a little bit of a Hail Mary. I just want to see what kind of result we get here. So one error we get here is for game inventory, and this is just something we implemented long ago. We don't really use it yet. It's pretty much just an empty monobehavior class down here, and we're getting this we're getting this error for that element, even though we don't have a serialized reference on that element. I just want to see what happens if we do remove component. We don't get it now, that's good. Would be real shocked if we did. Actually, let's do apply all here. And then we do, let's add it back. And let's double check this one as well. Inventory, monobehavior, I information provider. Yeah, that's okay. And inventory entity. Okay. So re-adding this one. Gives us the error again. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna need a new cup of coffee for this. Be right back real quick. Okay, back. Sorry about that. Harukanan is something overriding the default serialization and tries to serialize private stuff as well, maybe. I think the key to getting to the bottom of this is game.inventory, just because of how simple it actually is, and the fact that it doesn't have any references to it in code. Right? We only have this component here. We don't reference it in agent, apparel, player movement, tool handler, attribute handler, body definition, or playable entity. And yeah, everything works. Interactable lists 2, that sounds... Yo, what's up, Jax? Hope you had a wonderful summer. Interactable list 2, playable entity. That sounds temporary. Probably in animate entity. Or dynamic entity. Or entity. Let's skip that one. Playable action. I'm doing reload scene, reload domain at every startup now because serialization issues. The root of it can sometimes be like corruption in already serialized files, and I just want to make sure that's not the case here. What is creepy, Jax? You know what? We can also do it like this. Playable entity and dynamic entity. Pretty sure it's the entity. That is the root cause for these. Enabling it and disabling it means we don't get any more errors. Are we trying to serialize playable entities somewhere where we shouldn't? I guess so. Hmm. Yeah, now we don't have any errors at all. Okay. And everything works here. We can see that our serialized objects, our actions, they actually switch and display correctly. Focus active. Action list. The problem being, though, could it be? Could it be? Maybe. This is probably it. Information provider. Why, oh why? This might actually be as simple as me trying to debug something at the end of the summer, not successfully doing it, and have to quit. And now when we're back, we have this leftover code. This, I'm optimistic about this actually being the cause of it. Yeah, that seems to be it. Okay. So, for something to be inspectable, like when we inspect something, we want to be able to know, like, what information should we display. Everything that should be displayed, or every information that should be shown in some way, needs to implement an information provider. Most of these, if not all of them, will be game object derived. So doing a serialized reference or abstract selectable on those is definitely wrong. So wrong, in fact, that the error message didn't even pinpoint it more specifically. Okay, but that's nice. Okay, so now we have this under control. Let's change back that, and let's add one more blob here. Okay, that's good. So now maybe we can start doing some more fun stuff. Can I inspect this one? Yes, we can. Attributes, energy, strength, weight. Do we lose energy on the blob? We do not. Okay, we can start there. Let's add some energy drain to this one, because what I want to work on this week is I want to make the energy here become low, and we're gonna make energy the driving attribute for actually getting something to eat. Eventually it's gonna be a mix between energy and saturation, maybe. Or we make energy totally dependent on... we'll see what we do there, but let's make it energy now. So when the blob is just static, we're gonna have some energy draining from it. If it jumps around, it's gonna drain way quicker, and if it gets low enough, we will start searching for something to consume to get energy. And I guess the idea is that we're gonna define a span for energy. So if we go below X, it will start thinking about it, but the priority will be low. But if we're really, really low on energy, then we will start searching for some way to get energy, but the priority will be high. And eventually we will have all of these needs that needs to be fulfilled, and they will be prioritized based on how severe they are. Energy definitely being one of the highest one. And if we go down to energy 0, we might prompt a sleep. And yeah, that's how we're gonna build this. We're gonna start small, brick by brick, and see if we can get a nice system going. I don't think we want the needs to directly talk to each other. They will be more in competition, and then we will have something that analyzes the different needs and the priority of them, and sort them and execute them depending on severity. So let's start draining some energy here. And let's just take a look at Blob real quick. Currently we only have soft body handler. That's just for rendering, I would say. Yes. So we have body definition, we have body attributes. Yeah, this is not the correct weight. I wonder where we're getting this one from. So the correct weight we are getting from I thought we would be getting it from this one, mass 9, but here we have a weight of 1029, which I think is 182. Okay, it's definitely not that. So currently we have 3 different weight values for this one. That's not good. Oh, actually, I know. So when we are generating attribute editor node, so here we add the rigid body and we get the mass attribute from here. So a random number between 8 and 12. And we haven't made this one communicate with joint mass. Joint mass, we're gonna make joint mass depend on this one eventually. Okay. Cache less. This one should be cached, so all of these 3 should be the same. We have 1, 2. We add to the attribute handler. We have 1 that is being used here as input. And then we have a 3rd one which we use Add rigid body editor node and add rigid body editor node. Okay. So this object is this one. So it's the one we attach the eyes to. It doesn't make much sense to me, however. Ah. Yeah, that's good. So this one get a mass of 1.98. That's good. So this one gets the same mass as this one, I thought, but that's not the case either. Let's double check our implementation of attribute generator editor node. I'm wondering if this cache-less attribute generator editor node. We send in cache-less here, that's good. Base cache-less. Okay, the problem as I see it here is yo, did I actually... Yeah, it might be as stupid as this. Let's see. Add joint runtime node. I think we multiply, if I recall correctly. Where do we have rigid body anchor? Yeah, okay, that's stupid. Okay, so that explains that one. My next question is, so here we have the correct mass. Then we have a body definition here with weight. Body attributes, none. Weight is something we should be getting from rigid body at all times, I would say. It might be as easy as this being something. That's how we do it. Okay. So if we take the blob, for instance, I might just leave this as is currently, because I have a task that will improve the blobs. So I don't really know, but so this is what it is. So we have a rigid body that needs a weight to work accordingly, and that's the actual weight of the rigid body. And then we have a weight value here in body attributes, which is not a attribute instance, and that's, for one thing, tells me that we're not really using this for anything. Not game logic wise, nor anything else. Yo, what's up, Cooler SK? Hope you have had a wonderful summer. And yes, indeed, I am alive. I don't really know how to communicate stuff, you know. I have my Discord channel where I post shit. And that's usually where I try to post if I need to take a break from streaming or something like that. I don't know if Twitch has... maybe I need to look into it. But so what this weight does, so a blob consists of multiple rigid bodies, right? You have the main rigid body, and then to get the soft body to work properly, you have these different joints with their own weight, and this weight value here is currently like a summary or a sum of all those values, and that's why we're getting this weird value. So what's up, Alpine Bear Dev? I can't say. The idea is that everything attribute related is going to get generated here. Yeah, before 2077 or in 2077, that I'm pretty comfortable to say that we will have a release before then. Like 80% comfortable. So yes, this is where we should define all attributes. And this is also where we have energy. Okay, let's start this again and take a look at the blob. Okay, so we also have a body definition script here, which I think we don't add in the graph currently. But I do want to make it so, I think. So we have attributes, we have actions, and we have interactions. We don't have body definition just yet. Because what I want to add here now is I want to add body definition. I'm probably just going to add body definition in animate entity editor node here, actually. Currently, the way we add body definition is this, and that's not good. So we're going to fix that. But then again, body definition is also something we could just merge with animate entity or dynamic entity. Because what I want to add here is I want to add a way to, I want to be able to specify here that body definition should drain X energy every Y second. And then I want to be able to define in add action move rigid body that this one should drain said energy on every jump, you know? It's a lot of attributes affecting a lot of attribute-based functions. So you can see here something like movement pre-time range. When we move the rigid body, is affected by energy. So what I want to be able to specify in the graph here, yo, what's up, watcher? Yeah, you can probably learn something by just watching this stream or my other videos, or some of the videos from the other amazing creators out there. Bob the Blob. Unfortunately, Bob is currently the main character. So I guess we'll have Bob the second, the Blob. Maybe. So we have something called Can I show it here? Yeah, we can show it here. Player movement. Here we have something called attribute functions. And basically what attribute functions are here is functions that affects the attribute. And we can affect it in multiple different ways. Subtraction, what the modifier value source is, which attribute, and stuff like that. And I want to be able to define these in the graph as well. So when we generate the creatures and whatnot, we also define, so when we make the blob be able to do certain actions, I also want to specify here how this action will affect an attribute. And I think it's straightforward and easy when it comes to the actions, because we specify everything that has with this action here. We're going to specify which so for instance here we have interactions. So when another entity interacts with this entity, we have focus. So this object has a focus point, which is specified by this input. And we're going to do something similar here. So we have an action focus, and when we do the action focus, we're probably going to make the eyes look at the object and so on. So when it comes to the attribute functions, I think it's pretty straightforward to tie them to these actions or interactions. You know, maybe if one possible interaction is, I don't know, getting slapped, that will affect attributes. My only question with this is that we're gonna have some default attribute functions. So just having the body, keeping the body breathing maybe, will drain attributes, right? Or just idling will drain attributes. Which makes me think that idle will probably be an action as well. Of course it should be. So instead of defining like instead of defining some base attribute actions or attribute functions on the base entity or body definition, we of course have an action that is idle or rest or sleep, and we define it here. That's how we should do it. So what the hell, let's start by adding an action idle for our blobs, which is probably going to be the default action. And when we have this idle action, we can add an attribute function to it that drains the energy. And then when we start moving, we will no longer idle, so instead we will move, and then that one will take over the attribute function basically. Escaper, I was looking into my Survivors like projects from the last year to see how I did a thing, and of course I decided to play it a bit. Of course. It's a little prototype, but it felt not bad actually. Do you think there are still survivors like connoisseurs out there whom I can sell my game to? I get the feeling that even though it's a little bit of a saturated market, there's always people willing to buy a new survivors like. Do we have any survivors like roguelites out there? Maybe that's something. So when we play here and we go to our blob and we do animate entity, animate action handler, we have focus inspect and we don't have any active actions right now. Let's do this. Let's add an idle action. And let's do... Let's duplicate this one and make it action idle. Idle, climb. And 1 sec, I want to write a note to me here. Is do or note. Possibly make this into scriptable object like attributes. I've said it before, I'm not like, this is one way to do stuff like this, basic types. But when the types get very complicated, like they hold a lot of information, then it's a lot of switch cases for simple stuff like this. I wonder if it's a better way to store it as scriptable objects. Does it make sense? Because then we have, instead of defining scripts like this or referencing eventually, referencing our script, I mean string library here, we just have it defined in scriptable objects, like one centralized source for each action type. Then maybe I'm gonna leave this one here. Will you be able to consume the slimes? Yes, you will be able to. I want to make most of the actions work for most of the stuff, you know. You will definitely be able to consume them, not maybe directly as well if they are small enough. Maybe you will be able to consume baby slimes. The big slimes you might have to kill first, and then you can consume whatever comes from them. And other creatures will also be able to consume other creatures. So you're gonna have to you're gonna need to have to balance what creatures you want in your garden, because one creature's favorite food might be another creature. So then you're gonna have to decide which of these two creatures do I actually want in my garden, you know. But let's see, let's add some simple text here as well. And get inverse unidle, I guess. Quit idle. So action idle, type idle. Action move rigid body. So what kind of weird setup do we have here? Maybe a slime riding a slime. That would be something to behold. Very cute as well, I think. Parent slime carrying baby slime. Yeah, I agree with that, Cooler SK. That's also something I've noticed. It feels like people who like survivor games, they can't get enough of them. Like, my initial thought was that you find the one you like the best, and then you just grind that one, like, forever. But that doesn't seem to be the case for most people. At least not if you check their library, like, on Steam. I'm gonna... This way of doing the initialization, I'm skeptical of it. But there's also a reason for why I did it this way. Where you play as a slime and defend against mobs. Yeah, he looks a little bit scary currently with the unanimated eyes. So that would probably yield the horror tag on Steam, I guess. I guess that's true, Cooler SK. Like, it's almost like a... what is the word? Let's see if I can find... It's almost like they are like dependent on finding a new Survivors game. Indeed they do. Where do we have it? There we have it. Yeah, would not want to play that game. Okay, we're gonna go with this setup, this type of setup. Now, there's a reason we opted for this one. Maybe we can change it eventually. So we have action, move, rigid body, and we have something called action setup. So let's just take this one. So idling. This is definitely the way to go. So I guess then we're gonna have an idle animation, and depending on how low on energy you are, it's gonna look a little bit different. So probably just gonna have 2 idle animations, best case and worst case, and then we just interpolate between them. And so we're going to have 1 attribute based value here eventually for that. But right now the only thing I want here is not an attribute based value, but a attribute function. And we're gonna call it idle energy rate function. Rate function. And then we want to have a default setup for that one as well. Attribute function. Do we have a default constructor for these? I'm not so sure. Guess it's just going to be an empty with these empty. That might be okay. Create action. No. Or actually, yes. Okay, we have the prefix of action here. We didn't have it on Let's just call it idle. We don't have the same. Oh, we have it here. That's true. I want to have this one up here. And let's see, new idle setup. Yeah, we're just gonna call it like that. New idle setup. Process here, we're gonna call some animation stuff. Finish. And then we have dependencies. Probably not going to have any dependencies here, I reckon. Okay, very empty currently. And previously, we might need to do a little bit of a rework here, maybe. Because if we think about it, or the way I thought about attribute functions when I implemented them were that they can be compared to like hots or dots in most games. Like it's something that lies there and do something every now and then. But when we do it from an action, it's more we prompt the action and the action can tell that we're currently, this will remove this much energy, or and so on and so on. So it's more like a, and that's going to be a bit more optimized as well. So it's the same thing goes with when we consume something. Instead of having like a hot that lies on whatever is consuming something, for every tick of the consumption, we send a message to the attribute handler, I guess. That makes things a little bit easier. Let's take a look at attribute-based value. Maybe property. Yeah, it's definitely something like this I would like to do instead, and then we would use the agent messaging system. Definitely. So instead of the old system or the other implementation, which is going to be used for other stuff, here we have something like we're processing action, and when we're processing it, the action itself generates a couple of agent messages that is sent to the brain, and the brain will send it to the correct receiver. I don't want the actions. They shouldn't keep track of the attribute handler at all, I don't think. Okay, I have some thinking to do here, and unfortunately today I'm gonna do only a 2-hour stream, but tomorrow I will stream again and hopefully go for at least 3 hours. So let's just summarize this now. We cleaned up the mess I made just before summer break. That's good, no more errors. And we have started working on the monster logic again. Now we have our UI notification system we can utilize to debug this, so that's great. So we're going to continue with this, and brick by brick we're going to build up these creatures and make them a little bit smarter every time. And we're going to start with idle, then we're going to do search. So that's what we're going to continue with this week. And next week, maybe we can add some more functionality. But yes, thank you so much for watching, everybody, today. Join my Discord if you want to know when I go live. Otherwise, it's 10 a.m. Central European summertime, Monday and Tuesdays. Yes, thank you for watching and have a great one. Peace.